So about 10 years ago, to this very day practically, I decided to pursue a lifelong dream of mine, which was to ride a bicycle across the United States. And I realized that I needed to do some planning and some training. So every day through February, March, I started riding, and before I knew it, I was riding about 50 miles a week. And by July 1st, I was up to 50 miles a day. Now, there was one little hitch. The problem was that there was a pretty good chance that my employer was not going to allow me to take a 2-month leave of absence from, say, middle of August through October to do this bike ride. So I had to think about, what am I really going to do? How important is this to me? And am I really willing to roll the dice and quit my job over it? Well, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And on August 1st, it was a Friday, I went into my manager and I said, this is what I want to do. I dropped the bomb on him, and he said, are you kidding me? This doesn't fit our business plan. You can't allow this. No good, denied. What are you, crazy? And I said, well, I guess I am crazy because I'm giving you 2 weeks' notice. And on August 15th, I set off on my little ride. But before that happened, the following Monday, after I just quit my job, I continued on my 50-mile runs. I was living in Upper Darby at the time, and I'd get up in the morning and pick any direction, ride 25 miles, turn around, come back, and then go to work. On this particular morning, I was somewhere out past Westchester, and I hit a steel deck bridge. And it was slippery, and the bike started swerving and fishtailing, and the more I tried to get control, the more I couldn't, and then eventually the bike just went over, bam, down on the bridge. My head hit the deck of the bridge, and a 4-inch chunk of the helmet went flying forward, and I kept sliding on this, what effectively was a human cheese grater, until I came to a stop. And my first instinct is, get the hell out of the road, you're going to get run over. And I tried to grab the bike, stand up, and move out of the way. And a woman pulled alongside me. She rolls down a window, and she goes, are you all right? And I looked at the blood dripping off my hand. I said, where's this coming from? And I picked up my arm, and there was a gaping wound on the bottom of my arm, providing a very nice window to the bone in my arm. And I looked at her, and I said, I don't think so. She jumped out of the car, ran around the back, opened the trunk, grabbed a wad of paper towels, said, it's okay, I'm a nurse. How fortunate. She said, hold that on there, keep some pressure on it, and I'm going to call 911. She calls 911, and while we're waiting for the EMT, she says, is anybody else you want to call? I said, yeah, call my wife, tell her to get out, I'll tell her, and have her come out here and pick me up, and we'll take what's left of my bike and everything back home. The EMT show up, and they say to me, they're checking my pupils, see if I got any kind of concussion, and putting ice on my swollen shin, and taking care of all the other little cuts and bruises. And she says, they say to me, we really think you should go to the hospital. And I said, do I have to? My wife's coming out here. I don't live around here. I can go to Delaware County. She said, they said, okay, yeah, as long as you sign a release, we'll leave you here. I said, fine, give me the paperwork. So while I was taking care of that, one of the EMTs went back into the cab of the ambulance and came back with a little piece of paper. The nurse, somewhere in all this, had vanished, and I never got a chance to thank her. And they said, look, this is the name of the person that called 911. So I tucked the paper in my pocket. My wife shows up after the EMTs left, and then we threw the bike in the car. And did we go right to Delaware County? No. We stopped at Bike Line in Broomall so I could drop the bike off, because I had to know if this bike is going to be okay so I can make this trip. I'd been training since 6 months, and I was like out of my mind. Like I just quit my job, this whole thing is falling apart. We get to the emergency room at Delaware County, and the doctor takes a huge needle full of lidocaine and sticks it into my open wound, and then cuts away all the dead tissue and stitches me up. He could tell I was completely out of my mind, upset about this whole thing. And he said, look, in 10 days, the stitches will probably come out, and you're going to be bruised and sore, but you probably still can ride. That was a woe. I got home, there was even more good news. On the answering machine, Bike Line called, and they said, you know what? Your bike is really messed up, but it's nothing we can't fix. Double whoa. And that afternoon, I got into the shower, and I noticed the black and blue marks all down my entire body. And the fact that my trip was still alive gave me a mental euphoria that canceled any of the pain I was feeling physically. And when I got to work that afternoon, I looked up the name, tried to find a phone number. The first one I called that matched that name, a man answered and said, "Oh, yeah, I know all about what happened this morning. She's here. Hold on, I'll put her on." And I thanked her for helping me out on that steel deck bridge. And she was very glad to know that I was okay and that the trip was still on. And 2 months later, I pedaled my bike out of La Jolla down to the beach in San Diego, jumped into the Pacific with all my clothes on, my cleats and everything, and completed the dream of a lifetime. Thank you. You want this?